Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's discussion about why your discovery meetings feel productive, but might not actually be leading to new clients and why that is. So I am joined by Chris Holman, who is the executive coach here at Horse's Mouth. He's also the leader of our upcoming discovery meeting workshop, which starts next month, and the author of his new book, Discovery Shift: Why Talking Less and Listening More Wins Business. Chris, thanks for being back here with me this morning.
You're welcome.
Um, let's go ahead and get right into it. Can you tell us what you mean by the term progression pressure?
You bet, Doug. So it's a term I've coined as a result of the hundreds or so conversations that we've recorded and I've watched. Progression pressure is the felt sense that a conversation, discovery conversation, is designed to move forward before the prospect, before the person is ready. The prospect senses an outcome is already baked in. They feel it, they sense it. Advance, schedule, decide. And once that shows up, the discovery collapses.
Okay, but why do you think then that so many discovery meetings, feel productive to the advisors, or they come away from the meeting feeling like, that was really good, that went really well, yet time goes by and nothing comes of it. Why do you think that exists, that feeling exists?
Sure. Well, movement feels productive by itself. And what happens is that the meeting often starts moving forward too early. And that's what I'm talking about here. The advisor gets information from the prospect, from the person they're talking to, but they stop getting truth. And what happens emotionally for the prospect is they shift from exploring to cooperating. They're cooperating with the advisor. And the conversation stays polite. We've all been in conversations that sound and stay polite. But in this case, the meaning disappears.
Yeah, I mean, how often do we, say, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Yeah, hey, how you doing? And there's nothing really meaningful being said there, even though it's very nice,
Daily,
very pleasant.
daily. How are you, Doug?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, great, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of the discovery meeting, Chris, when do you think this pressure, this progression pressure tends to show up in the meeting?
Really early. Usually in the first 10 minutes, actually well before that, I think. And nothing goes wrong. No one is pushy. The advisor isn't pushy, but the prospect stops asking what's really going on here and starts asking of themselves, what answer do I need to provide that keeps this moving? And that's the turning point. Cooperation as opposed to thinking.
Okay. So would you say that progression pressure is kind of just another term for, sales pressure?
No, not exactly. And that's the important part. It's not overt selling or manipulation, it's more structural. The advisor very often is competent, they're kind, they're generous, but the structure of the call still carries gravity toward an outcome. And that is the progression pressure we're talking about here.
Okay, but to push back a little bit, isn't that just a softer, rebrand of sales pressure? If an advisor is moving the conversation towards a decision, isn't that, the whole point?
Well, that's the trap. Progression isn't the problem. Premature progression is. Sales pressure is about persuading. Progression pressure is about the structure. And even an ethical advisor can accidentally create gravity too soon. And the prospect stops reflecting and starts cooperating.
Okay, so you just mentioned that this can accidentally happen without the advisor being aware of it. So, what behaviors can create this progression pressure, without the advisor necessarily being aware of it?
We all do it. When I was an advisor, I did it. But simple, reasonable moves we're talking about here. Explaining the process too early, clarifying next steps, asking qualification questions that sound like curiosity, scheduling as a default rather than a choice. Every one of those things feels kind of harmless, but together they tilt the conversation forward.
It seems kind of ironic that, prospects tend to become, vague at the same time that advisors are thinking simultaneously that, oh, this is going really well. Why is this ironic uh, phenomenon happening that way?
It happens to all of us. It's the illusion of transparency. And this, because their nervous system adjusts and the prospect becomes agreeable, they become efficient, they become cooperative, they sound engaged with the conversation, but they're performing too. And the conversation has started to feel more like a conveyor belt.
Okay, and why do you think it is that advisors, create progression pressure, in the first place?
Well, they're under pressure too. They're loyal to their process. They're anxious about time. They're trying to be helpful. And many advisors, equate usefulness with movement. So being still, being silent, stillness feels irresponsible even.
Okay, maybe you can kind of tie this back to some of the more, general discovery meeting mistakes that advisors make. In your mind, what's the core mistake that advisors are making when it comes to discovery?
Sure. Advisors assume discovery and progression can coexist in the same moment. They can't. Discovery, true discovery creates space, and progression collapses space. Both are necessary, but not at the same time.
Okay, so you've talked about, progression pressure and how advisors can get, ahead of themselves in the process and change modes too soon and get out of, that exploration phase. So, what does it mean for an advisor to have earned progression?
Doug, it's really about sequencing. Trust first, space first, reflection first, and then you want movement. Progression isn't eliminated, it's delayed until the prospect actually feels understood.
Okay, but I can hear the advisor's interior monologue, listening
I
to
can hear them
this.
too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So, like we have, we're running a business, right? We can't just sit back forever. At some point we've got to get the ball rolling and work on bringing this person on as a client so that we can continue getting paid. What do you have to say to them? We were thinking that.
Doug, you're right, of course. And I'm not talking about endless wandering here. It's about sequencing. Discovery first, progression second. The irony is that when you delay progression slightly, this is really important. Please hear this when I say this. The irony is that when you delay progression very slightly, you get there faster because the prospect is actually with you. Otherwise, you get polite words and no truth. You want the prospect and the advisor to be aligned on the same page, so to speak. Emotionally, it's what we're talking about here.
Okay, and what changes once an advisor learns to, hear or be aware of progression pressure?
Doug, everything. You, the advisor, starts noticing it everywhere. They hear, you hear. The advisor hears when their process is rushing trust. And they can design conversations that stay open long enough for something real to emerge. And that's what you want.
Okay, and of course, you cover this, Chris, and a lot more, the whole um, discovery meeting process in your discovery meeting workshop that's coming up February 9th and 10th. Let me go ahead and put the link. The link is on the screen now, and it's in the description or wherever you're watching this. Chris, do you want to just talk quickly about the workshop and maybe how it ties in with what we've been talking about today?
Well, the progression pressure is certainly a very important part of what we'll talk about in the workshop. And And I do understand that some of the things that we'll be talking about in the workshop will sound different. They'll feel different to advisors. And I think that's good. So discovery, as it exists now, cannot sustain itself. AI is fast on our heels, and advisors need to stay ahead of that. They need to be themselves. And the workshop is about that. How to beat AI, how to not beat AI, stay ahead of AI and be a real important partner for prospects and clients.
Yeah, and if you go to horsesmouth.com/discovery, you can see a full agenda of this 2-day workshop, get a real sense of what's involved and what you'll learn there. So, Chris, thank you for joining me today,
Thank
and
you.
and
You're welcome.
we'll see you next time, everybody.
Yeah.